Aloha. I'm Butterfly Brielle, founder of Manifestation Media. And today I'm joined by Paul Temple, founder.
Mhm.
Paul, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Hi. I'm very well, thank you. Happy to be here. Hello, everybody. I'm here in the yoga barn at the Double Rainbow Ranch in the Great Pyramid in Boulder, Colorado. And thank you, Brielle, for hosting this event, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here and agreeing to do this. I was very intrigued by the title of this upcoming series, and I'd like to start there. I'd like to ask you, so this program is called Lineages of Magic and the Age of Darkness. And can you explain a little bit more about what this title is all about?
Yes, it is. It's a tongue twister. Lineages of Magic and the Age of Darkness. Um, Let's see. So the lineages of magic piece is that I believe that there are certain abilities, capabilities, gifts, skills that are innate in humans, and that in some family lineages they are more prevalent than others, um, and that these are things like intuition, telepathic communication, sensitivity to subtle energies, being able to connect with one's higher guidance, and just really being aware of the multidimensional construct of the universe. We get very kind of locked down in our three-dimensional world, and we have this ability to expand and realize that the construct of our greater reality is very different than we are taught. So magic is one word particularly from Western culture, that is used to describe these extrasensory, extraordinary, metaphysical. We have all these words to describe that which is beyond the ordinary or beyond the normal. Paranormal, that's another one of those words. And so the lineages of magic are those families that actually have these skills more developed than others might, and beginning to recognize that, because in our culture, because of the age of darkness, which I'll get into in a minute, those skills are not recognized or developed. In fact, they are frequently shunned and shamed and ridiculed. And many of us as children had the experience of seeing other beings around us, communicating with our spirit guides, being able to know what other people are thinking and feeling, and then getting that shamed by adults. Shut down, don't do that, don't think of that. That I had that interaction with my father, and I've heard others say the same thing, that it's just like those sensitivities were shamed and shunned and ridiculed and shut down when they were a child. So that's kind of what the lineages of magic is about. And I want to talk more about magic in a bit, but the age of darkness piece is that the earth and humanity are coming out of an era of just horrible, horrible darkness. 2,000 years is sort of one part of the cycle. It was called the Age of Kali in the Vedas. The Piscean Age, it was called in the Western astrological model. And it was a time where humanity really lost touch with their heart, lost touch with the larger reality. And in Western culture, there was a period in the 14th and 15th century up into the 16th century where what's known commonly within our just regular history of the burning times, the Inquisition, it was called, where anyone who showed signs of being able to communicate with extraordinary beings, with spirit guides, with plants, because plants, you know, plants have telepathic communication, animals have telepathic communication. We can all learn to do that. So they're not really supernatural, they're actually very natural, but we've just shut them out because during those burning times, anyone who showed sign of those abilities was horribly, horribly, horribly tortured, executed, burned at the stake, dumped in water, drowned. I mean, and that was an intentional repression of these abilities within the human species. And why that happened, I don't entirely understand, but it did. And it has kept those skills repressed for thousands, well, at least hundreds and hundreds of years. So those families that carried these abilities, those families that survived the burning times, were in such dark fear of revealing them that there was this intense repression. So as a child would begin to, show these skills, the parents would just say, no, you can't do that, because it was fear of death. And that was true for several hundred years, that revealing these abilities was a sign of heresy, and the church would, still maybe not execute them, but there were hangings here, the witch burnings, the witch trials in the US up into the 1600s. So that's the age of darkness part. And the important piece of that is we're now coming out of it. We are now in a place where we can begin to remember and recognize and realize these skills, normalize them, and see that, yes, they are something that anybody and everybody can do as we begin to develop them. So the larger purpose of this program, Lineages of Magic in the Age of Darkness, is to help us recontextualize and understand these abilities within this context of coming out of this age of darkness, beginning to say, oh, I can do this. I do. My empathetic abilities are actually real, and they can be developed. They can be filtered. They can be focused. And beginning to work with them, because they are natural. I believe they are in our DNA. And it's really important in this time for humanity to evolve into this new level, because then we become much more aware and sensitive and to who we really are outside of our three-dimensional, sort of capitalist political system. And to awaken to this larger capability. So that was a big mouthful, but I think it answered the question.
Absolutely. And what I was just feeling as you were speaking is how challenging it must be for so many to be maybe 6, 7, or 8 sensory beings, if depending on how many different intuitive gifts you have, right, in a world that's designed for 5 senses and only really recognizes that we have, right, 5 senses. And and I thought that was like just a really great way of kind of, in a nutshell, describing the challenge, right? Is though there's so many of us who have more than 5 senses, but yet this world has really only recognized those 5. And how do we right, manage, and how do we live in a world that is not necessarily nourishing and nurturing of those additional senses that so right, many of us have, whether they're known by the person or not. So that was just kind of my feeling and inspiration as you were speaking there. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to do this work with you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for offering this, because I feel like personally I'm right on time to do this work, and I know that so many of us likely are as well. And that's one of the benefits too that's come out of this last year of kind of having more time to devote to kind of cultivation of our own gifts as we've had less outside events going on and more just kind of more time to work on ourselves, I think, for a lot of us.
Right.
So Paul, I would love to hear a little
I,
bit more about.
well,
Go ahead.
I just saying, I'm seeing a comment on the screen here from Zach saying he's really happy that he can openly teach his kids about magic and psychic abilities. And, that's what the work is to normalize and realize that these are things that we can do. And that's going to change. That's going to shift all of humanity. The more that we do that collectively, by both in ourselves and in our children, passing this on. Because my mother was highly, highly intuitive, very gifted. I think there was a strong lineage of magic through her side, but horribly repressed and a lot of dysfunction in the family. And, she passed that on to me. And I have been able to say, no, I'm not going to take on the fear and the repression. She grew up in Georgia in the 1920s when the KKK was very prevalent and dominant. So there was just this blanket of fear over any revealing of anything that was not within those tight confines of the acceptable reality. But now we are expanding that reality so that I could teach my children how to be intuitive and perceptive, and to trust those inner senses, to trust their spiritual guidance. And I'm happy to see that Zach is doing that as well.
Shout out to Zach. He's one of our manifesting our dream reality crew members. He and you also presented in my recent 8-week series, and it's just so great to kind of see how that series kind of helped us kind of come together and meet people that also are so interested in doing the work, right? Because the work works in my experience. And so, so what I was about to jump into there, and I'm glad you pointed out his comment, because I do want this to be an interactive thing. And if anyone has any questions for Paul about the series, I'd love for you to feel free to ask those in the chat. Feel free to ask us anything, and we will do our best to get to any questions that you might have, because that's really what this stream is all about, is just getting more information and diving deeper into the topic and kind of uncovering the mystery that it really feels to me, just in its title. But so I was going to ask you, Paul, and you've shared a little bit about this, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about your journey and how you came to be really to teaching this, and kind of your personal connection to this topic. One thing I've never asked you before is, maybe like, when did you discover that you had these gifts, and kind of how did your personal unfoldment of learning, who you are, and then coming to obviously be inspired to teach? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, that's that's a long story. I as I think with most of us, I sort of struggle with the constructs and limitations of our cultural programming, our familial programming, and this innate sort of akashic programming, that our deeper soul level programming that begins to magnetize our lives. I had the great gift of being born onto a piece of land in Massachusetts that was just incredibly magical. My father had, and my mother, my family had this large farm. And I really, by being in the woods, I began to connect with the trees, and, felt like, oh, wow, there's something here in the mushrooms, and seeing the fairy rings. And I would get lost in this. And then I had magical friends. I had Mr. Wolf and Mr. Fox, who were my friends in my childhood. And I remember one morning, probably 8 or 9 years old, coming into my parents' bedroom on a Sunday morning, and they were still kind of groggy. And I go, oh, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Fox are here. And just getting this really wham hammer from my father about, you will not speak of them again. They are not real. And it just, it shut it down. Now, that's also my own karmic programming, because part of the reason we choose to incarnate into families is to get the lessons we need to learn. That's part of the ancestral work, is that our souls chose to incarnate into these lineages so that we would get all these restrictions and structures that we need to unbind. And that's part of our soul purpose. So yeah, I had to work through that and unwind and unweave. Music and vibration and sound have been a strong support path for me all of my life. I started playing music as a child and taking piano lessons, and I studied music in high school. I was a music major in college, and being in that vibrational current, even though, I was studying what we call music, and music is much more. It is vibrational. It's tapping into the universal vibrational field. Just being in music in that construct was a way of my accessing my own kind of connections to my guides, because I would hear my guides telling me about songs and channeling songs and things like that. And the biggest piece came after college. I connected with my spiritual teacher, and that's always a mysterious process of how one finds the teacher. But her name, she's a Native American woman. She's also a Tibetan Lama, or teacher recognized as a Lama in the Vajrayana teachings. And that that put me in the world, because indigenous mind is very different than Western mind. And it just helped me unwrap all the Western cultural programming and really immerse me in this much broader, because in indigenous mind, Dahani used to say, "Oh yeah, see that star up there? That's my great-great-grandmother." And we talk all the time, and that's their reality, is that we live in this multidimensional world, and it all happens through the heart. So that was really a big nexus, and I'm still connected with that community and with Diani Oahu, and those teachings have really integrated into my work. And so that's sort of how I began to unwrap what I call the culture of disbelief, and begin to have more confidence, faith, of awareness in my innate intuitive guidance and abilities. And particularly as I became an elder, as I got older and was able to drop away some of the glamours of that motivate us in the earlier parts of our life, I feel like my connection with my own guidance has gotten much stronger and deeper. And I've been able to really connect with what my heart path, what my soul path, what my own magical abilities are able to manifest in the world, and bring these gifts to the people. Because that's really what the work of soul service is, not only realizing your gifts, but recognizing how to bring them forth as a gift to the world and the people. So I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I really like hearing about Mr. Fox and Mr. Wolf, because I feel very connected to the wolf especially, and also to the fox. I've had some mystical experiences with both, and I also just feel very close to animal medicine and the shamanic powers of the animals and the natural world. I met some of my most recent favorite fairy friends at the Fairy Congress. And so I also have this connection to the fairy realm. And it's been hard at times in my life to express my connection to these realms, to people who I would say they're kind of like your dad, have this kind of tendency to like shut it down and kind of blow it off, like, oh, you're silly for thinking that those could even be real, when they feel in my heart to be very real for me and very present for me. And so it's an interesting time right now to be alive, because we still have so much duality.
Yeah. And that's your key insight there is about feeling in the heart. That's really the next skill level. That's the new sense that we need as a species to develop, is being able to perceive through that heart of what is real and what is not. Because we can discern truth from illusion through the heart center and through these subtle senses. So we are trying to raise the whole consciousness of humanity to develop this level of sensitivity and awaken the heart. But the heart has been so shut down through the horrors of, war and violence and slavery and genocide and just, the horrific darkness and horrors of the last 2,000 years in particular, that we're needing to heal our hearts and open our hearts and heal those ancestral strands, which is part of the work that we do in this series.
Wonderful. Well, that's a great segue into my next question for you, which is what is included in the series? You've shared a little bit about, connecting to the heart, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about what else will we be getting into in the series in terms of its content and
Yeah. So there are four sessions, 2 in June, 2 in July. And what I've been told is that the work in this time, there are two pieces to the work that humanity is doing in raising consciousness at this time. The first is healing these wounds, this ancestral patterning, so that we unwind those patterns of dysfunction and shutdown and fear that has come through our ancestral lineage. So healing that and unwinding it is part one. Part two is envisioning and manifesting this new reality, this positive future where we recognize, oh, yes, we can be these sensitive beings. We can have magical gifts. We can communicate with the plants and with the animals. We can communicate with each other. We can learn how to feel into situation and use these gifts and normalize them. So that's envisioning our what's called the evolutionary potential of who we can become. And it's almost a process of remembering who we can become. And I believe that's encoded in our heart centers, in our soul memory, in our Akashic memory, that we have this programming of who we can evolve into. And that's important to really begin to generate and manifest that, not only for ourselves, but for future generations to recognize, re-see, remember, there are all these words, realize this new expanded capability of humanity. So one is healing the past, two is manifesting the future. And so these four pieces in this series tap into both of those. So we'll do some ancestral work around clearing our ancestral channels, looking at where those patterns of fear are manifest, and helping unlock that. In indigenous world, the ancestral web, as we call it, is supposed to be a resource of strength and power and mystical insight for people. And because our ancestral web has gotten so clogged with the fear and the repression, and we need to unwrap that, because it's actually becomes it's for many people, our ancestral lineage has become inheriting this dysfunction and fear and repression that we can unwrap. So there will be some ancestral work. There will be some Akashic work for each person to tune into their Akashic memory and begin to remember who they are becoming, who they can become, their evolutionary potential. We'll also do some skill development in, beginning to talk to your guides, beginning to listen and differentiate the voice of your own spirit guides and intuitive awareness, doing some telepathic work, and then some larger visioning of really stating who you can become as a magician. Yeah, I don't know. I don't use the word magician a lot. Wizard. These are terms in our culture. It's really embracing the larger multidimensional reality without these glamours of, oh, I'm a magician and I'm a wizard and I'm a witch. Those are actually, they're kind of old terms that mean different things to a lot of people. I have a guide named Althor, and Althor introduced himself to me as saying, oh, greetings, my name is Althor and I am a wizard of some degree. And I'm going, well, am I Althor, or are you part of me, or am I part of you? And he goes, oh, yes, well, you are Althor, but you are not Althor. So I am Althor, I am not Althor. Yes, yes, exactly. So, it doesn't fall with an easy definition, because magic is a word from Western culture. It has some beautiful connotations of, being able to weave light and webs and communicate with plants. And it has dark connotations because, dark magic is what got sort of encrusted in the age of darkness, where it was twisted and learned to control and manipulate people and repress people's true soul presence and soul sovereignty. And that's another piece that's breaking out as we realize our magical gifts, is our own soul sovereignty. So 4 sessions that will cover those various, Akashic, ancestral clearing, skill development, envisioning evolutionary potential is the summary of the content.
Incredible. The word that was really coming through for me was reignite. And this idea of reigniting the magic in my heart and reigniting the sacred inner flame, right? And this idea of how I feel like I have had some experiences throughout my life that helped me to reignite and at least to see the flame. But for me personally, and I know this might be true for some of those out there, is how to keep the fire burning, right? So we have this, we light the fire, we get into that alignment with this truth that we know in our hearts, and we kind of cast out the naysayers, so to speak, of it, that might have, hurt us or made us feel wrong or bad in the past for these truths that we know to be. But how to keep that fire burning, and how to, like what happens for me is I light the fire and then a torrential rainstorm comes because I have a lot of watery energy in my chart. I'm a Cancer moon, and I've got this mermaid inside of me too. And this ancient water, I do call in the rain, right? And there's this idea that the rain is a positive thing, but when it comes to keeping a fire burning, maybe not so much. And so for me, it's really about working with the elements and how to harmonize the different elemental nature of myself with all that is. And in different moments, how to navigate these challenging experiences that life kind of throws at us, and kind of keep, how do I put up the shield when I need to, how do I use my magic to put the fire under a bubble, And so I just was feeling in my heart as you were speaking that that was maybe part of my intention of doing this work myself, is to kind of help me to work on some additional tools for my toolkit, to kind of keep the fire burning and to put up the protection when I need to, but also to almost cast out the darkness, right? Cast out the darkness with the light of that inner fire, but still acknowledge that, there's this duality, right? And without the dark, it's the dark and the light and how they dance together that really creates all things in the universe. So very interesting download to have there and as you were speaking. And so my next question for you is about humanity, right? And we've talked a lot about humanity throughout this interview and just in the work I've done with you over the past few months. I'd love for you to share with us more about why you feel this particular work is so important for humanity and for people at this particular time, right? Because we've chosen this
Mm.
summer as the timeline to do this work, and why do you feel this is the time for this work?
Mm. Um, yeah. I mean, I think most of us know of this transition time. It's modeled in a lot of different ways of, coming into the age of Aquarius and or the coming out of the age of Kali. Um, and, I hear people refer to the ascension. That's not a word that I relate to very much because ascension sort of means there's this automatic rising and awakening. And we're actually in a place where we need to do the work. We need to work hard because it's a very difficult time. We're very early in the transition. So, if we look around our three-dimensional world, the earth is in a really horrible space. There's still war and oppression and torture and just, terrible things happening all over the planet. And we need to do this work to begin to raise the consciousness of humanity. And we need to do that one heart at a time. The work, the diamond light teachings that come through me are about people remembering the great power of the heart, reconnecting with the heart. Because in the dark times, the heart was shut down. Fear, trauma, oppression, torture, these are all ways of shutting down the heart. So as we begin to reconnect with our hearts, to heal our hearts, to strengthen the light in our hearts, we are also doing that for humanity and sharing that and creating an easier resonant field for others to awaken and activate their hearts. So the time is ripe at this, here and now. The opening is there. We are coming out of this age of darkness, and the work is accessible. The access is there, and many of us have incarnate in this time specifically to do this work, to work through the mucky family dysfunctions, to open up and remember the lineages of magic. And magic, again, I've said this before, but magic is just a word that Western culture uses to relate to these extrasensory, supernatural, metaphysical abilities. And supernatural, I don't believe they're supernatural. I believe they are natural and they are inherent in a lot of beings. They are extrasensory within, as Brie was saying, the five senses. But they're also recognized, in the Vedas, they're called the siddhis. They are the attainments. So that as one liberates one's mind from the programming of our repressed cultural, phenomenon, we begin to achieve these attainments of intuitive awareness, telepathic communication. Flying is another one. So you'll see in a lot of Asian movies, Chinese movies, these gifted warriors can fly because to them, one of the attainments, one of the great siddhis of the masters is the ability to fly. Now, is that capable? It may be that at higher levels, we can do that kind of transcendence. Right now, I'm working with a set of skills that are kind of preliminary. They're very sort of like doing arithmetic as opposed to calculus, but it's a stepping stone so that we learn to open our awareness, perceive multidimensional reality, and other abilities can begin to develop and generate from that. So I don't even remember what the question was.
The question was about
I hope that answers
whether or not why now, right? Like why now is the time, and you answered it very perfectly. You really did, and I want to say thank you because you elaborated on the topic in a way that I think was really perfect, and I think that the the time is now, right? Because all we have is now, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's an interesting time to be offered this type of opportunity
Yeah.
to step into
Yeah.
this work,
Yeah.
because it's kind of like I felt throughout, basically at the beginning of the P word. I'm not going to say the official word on the stream because of Facebook. It doesn't like certain words, and YouTube doesn't like certain words. But basically, this last year and a half that we've been in, at the beginning of this time, this era that we've been living through, it was this real powerful download that I got, that now is the time to do all of the things and to establish the foundation and to do the inner work that I've been kind of putting on the back burner, saying I would do it later, too busy running around doing things. It's like, this is the time now to take and to sit and in the stillness, right, and to really work on this stuff. And so for me, it's the perfect time, because that piece, that download came to me very early on in this era that we're living through, and this journey that we're living through. And things have started to lighten up, I would say, especially here in Colorado. There's more happening out in the world, and it's amazing to see that we're able to start to come together and to gather more. But I would say we're still not out of the darkness. We're still kind of trudging through.
No, not at all. Unfortunately, not at all.
We're still trudging through, and so the time is now. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and there are larger pieces there, which is, we are the ones that our ancestors dreamed of. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. That phrase floats around a lot. But we have the opportunity to do the healing that they couldn't. We have the skills now, even within the the psychotherapeutic world. We know how to unwrap trauma from the nervous system, and we know how to unwrap trauma from synaptic patterning in ways that prior generations did not. So we can really do this work in ways that our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents could not. And so we are the ones that they struggled and they survived so that we could do this work, And there's also the level of, for centuries, the Tibetans were up in the mountains doing their just holding the light through the dark times, waiting for that time when the Dharmic teachings could really come across the earth and help awaken. And that's why indigenous teachings, Tibetan teachings, the Peruvian teachings, the plant medicines, all of this that has been, it's like over centuries that they've been held in these little eggs, so that when the time is right, the egg would open and the fire would be kindled and we would come back. So yes, there were beings who kept the fires burning.
We're busting out of our chrysalis.
Lineage, there were fire keepers who, when the Trail of Tears happened and the Cherokee were, militarily escorted from the Appalachians to Oklahoma, there were fire keepers that stayed back in the mountains to hold the clan and the spirit flame for the people, to keep those fires going, so that when the time came back, the sacred teachings would still be held. And so all of that is blossoming right now. And yes, so now is the time.
Yeah, wonderful.
Shambhala,
yeah. And I was going to say thank you. Thank you for doing this work. And my next question, and we're nearing the end, but I have a couple more for you. So thanks for those who are watching. And just if anyone out there has any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We would love to answer those live and answer any questions you have about this exciting upcoming series. It does start on Thursday, so there's still time to sign up. And so, Paul, this is the time where I'm going to ask you a little bit about How do you feel this particular series is different than, you do your Tuesday and your Sunday night live streams, which, I love doing those with you and just being able to tap into that sound
Mhm.
space. And we've been doing regular Zoom events, but this is a little bit different, I know. And I'm just curious if you could share a little bit more and elaborate more on how this particular series is different than some of your other offerings that maybe some of our audience members have attended in the past.
Hmm. Um, I mean, to some degree, I don't see that it's different. It's more focused, but all of the work is about helping people remember the light in their hearts, which is the mission of the Diamond Light Network, to just strengthen our heart lights, help us realize those magical multidimensional abilities that we have. Um, this is a focused series that really it does go more into that ancestral stream. It has this particular lens of lineages of magic and the age of darkness. But it's like I've been doing ancestral clearing. We do that on All Souls Day, in autumn, and that's part of the ongoing work, is clearing the ancestral streams. And then I've done other visioning workshops, and I've done other solos on telepathic and intuitive development. This brings it together into a package that really focuses on particularly those people that are drawn to recognize that they might be from a lineage of magic, and their family might have suffered through the age of darkness. And it's really contextualizing it within that remembrance. Um, so, yeah, it's more. We've not done a 4-part series before. I've done some 2-part series, but it's deepening and intensifying the work for those who want to go deeper and do the work to really kind of reconnect with their magic, with their light, with their heart, because it's all the same thing.
Amazing.
Hmm.
So, if I was planning on taking this, what are some of the ways I can prepare for this upcoming series? If I wanted to do a little bit of prerequisite homework, how could I dive into that?
Um,
We talked
well,
about this.
tapping into the
We're gonna show the blog post.
okay.
Remember,
So
we were
yes,
gonna show.
there's both a blog post and a podcast on the Diamond Light Network website, diamondlightnetwork.com, called Lineages of Magic and the Age of Darkness, that go into more detail about just this historical trend, understanding the repression of the burning times, the awakening of this, in this new era, this time of change that we're in, and more about the magical abilities. So there's a blog and a podcast on that, and that would just help immerse more into the context and the topic. Um, I would also, if part of it is just as you drop more into the stream of the sound current that I offer. It's funny because we talk words as we do here, and this gets into our brain, and it's important for our brains to understand what's happening. But the vibrational transmissions that come through the sound current, through the Tibetan bowls, through the Vajrayana chanting, through the mantras, um, these all speak directly to the heart. They help activate the heart. I spoke before about the Tibetans who lived up in the mountains, way high in the Himalayas for centuries and centuries, doing their practice, holding the light, holding these secret practices, so that when the planet was ready, they could come forth. Well, now they're coming forth. So the Vajrayana practices are very potent for awakening the diamond light in our heart. So if you can tap into the the live casts that we do, and the other offerings, those will help your heart remember and strengthen.
Beautiful.
There's
Beautiful.
yes. Oh, great. Thank you. You posted the link to the podcasts there. Great.
Yeah, so I just put the link to the blog post and the podcast into the comments. So make sure to check those out. And if people are wanting to sign up for this, how can they get signed up for this?
There is an Eventbrite link that you hopefully can post. The first session is this coming Thursday evening, June 3rd. And then it's every other Thursday evening after that. So there are 2 Thursdays in June and 2 Thursdays in July, from roughly 7 to 9. And so if you sign up for that first one, then you can get connected with the rest of them. You can either do the full series or you can do the sessions one at a time. It's fine to drop in and do each one. So all of that you can connect with through the Eventbrite page, and you can also find that Eventbrite page on our Facebook group, Diamond Light Network, or the website, diamondlightnetwork.com. I think it's also on the Radiance Matrix page. Radiance Matrix is the name of the music project. Diamond Light Network is the is the work around these teachings that are coming forth. And also my Paul Temple Facebook page. There's all kinds of multiple platforms out there. So
incredible. And I also wanted to mention to our audience that if you sign up for the full series, you get a small discount for purchasing the full series. Each individual session we've priced at $13.13, which if you did the math on that and you wanted to sign up for the 3 paid sessions and the free session, it comes out to be about $39. But we're offering the full series pass that both for this week and next week. So you can sign up for the full series in week 1 or week 2, and you get it for $33. So you save about $6 if you go ahead and make a decision now to purchase the full series. And you also will be getting the replay videos. So of course it would be preferred to show up live and to do the work live. And I want to say something about that. I want to say that there's something magical that happens when you enter into this container and you're there with the others that have chosen to be there and present themselves in that moment to collectively receive this information and receive this download. There's something to that. And even in the virtual space, I've been doing virtual events over the last year, and I find that there is this like magic to coming together even in the virtual space to do work like this. So of course we would like you to show up, but let's say you show up and you don't feel like taking notes. We will send you the replay video, which you can always refer back to, and that can kind of help to, if you forget one part of what he was saying in the first thing. I really think that just having those replay videos is going to help to deepen the work. And so it's
great.
Still worth it to sign up for the full series if we realize that this is a summer series. And so there's a couple things we did. We put an off week in between each week of the series. So we start this week, and then next week we skip a week, and then we'll do number 2, skip a week, number 3, skip a week, number 4. So we did that really intentionally because we realized it's the summer and we wanted to provide people with, also some time to maybe integrate the work and kind of be able to just kind of sit with the teachings, maybe, do some practice of what they've kind of come away with, as well as allow for the summer to be the summer. And I recommended that we did that. And I'm hoping that allows more people to show up and to really get to experience this live as much as possible. But if you sign up for the full series and for some reason can't make it, we will send you the replay video. And same goes for, if you buy a single night pass, you will receive the replay from the night you pay and attend. So please do sign up, even if you're afraid, oh no, I might not be able to come, because we want you to be there. And this is going to be a really incredible experience. So Paul, we've got a couple minutes left. Any closing thoughts? Yeah, thanks so much. And I was going to say, any closing thoughts?
I thought I might close with a little sound transmission. How about that?
That's great. We have about 10 minutes, so feel free to take it away.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll do 10 minutes, but just to give you a sense of the sound transmission that speaks directly to the heart. This is an ancient, antique Tibetan healing bowl. I call it the dragon bowl because it just kind of brings through that fiery truth of the dragon protector. And then I'll be doing some Tibetan throat singing with it. So just let yourself receive the vibration in your heart, in your physical body. Just let your mind sort of try to come into stillness so that you can open that perception in the heart.
Almost don't even want to come back to a conversation after that. I'm still vibrating.
Greetings to Michael Downs. Hello, Michael.
Hello. And I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who tuned in.
Yeah, and left comments. That's nice. Here's the comments. I wanted to also. Looks like we had somebody from South America here offering felicidad. So there it is. Romy. Yeah. Felicidades, Romy. Muchas gracias. And Michael Downs was an old friend, is an old friend from Vermont, who we studied singing together in college. So lovely to hear from you, Michael. Teresa, thank you. Namaste, Teresa.
Blessings to all who
And
tuned in
Ian.
today. Yeah, thanks so much.
And
Okay.
thank you, Brielle, for hosting this and being the butterfly.
I appreciate you doing this, Paul. I really enjoy doing these, and I know it's maybe hard a little bit to switch from your normal musical. Your normal live streams are so musical, and I know it's a different part of your brain you got to turn on to go into this conversational dialogue. And I know I'm a chatter, so so thanks so much for agreeing to do this. It really meant a lot to me, and for me, it just helps me to kind of just to get into the zone with it and just to get really excited about it. So I just really appreciate your time today and everything. And I appreciate everyone who tuned in and watched. Anybody who leaves comments on the stream who may be watching this later on, we will do our best to respond to you and to get back to you if you have any questions. Please feel free to reach out to either myself or Paul. We're here to help you along this sacred journey, and I look forward to seeing some of you this Thursday, June 3rd, from 7 to 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in our free intro session. And hopefully as many as I possibly can see in the upcoming following 3 sessions. So stay tuned for more magic to come from Paul Temple's Radiance Matrix, as well as Manifestation Media. And don't hesitate to reach out. The world needs your light. Much love. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings.
Namaste. Namaste.